Welcome. My name is Matthew Blum, and we are here today to help you find a naturally thin eating strategy. Now, this is going to be maybe different than the way you've thought about dieting or health or things in the past, because this is actually looking at our internal processes for how we make decisions. And this only impacts every area of your life. How you make decisions about what movie you're going to see, how you make decisions about what clothing to buy, how you make decisions about what you eat every day for every meal. Every single person has an internal process or an internal strategy of how they do this. And there's a difference about how people will just say not thin, to be hopefully respectful as possible. Those who are not thin and having a difficult time with that versus those who are. There's a different strategy inside that's not usually taught, not usually explained, but makes a huge difference about overall, over like long haul, how someone can have a very, very naturally thin eating strategy that keeps them healthy. And it's not even just thin, because some people can create thinness no matter what they eat, but also true health, which is what I hope your goal is. And we can talk about that another time, actually, about setting up value systems that determine whether you're going toward health or away from difficulty or pain in some way. So this is about the strategy. So here's how this works. Basically, to take this premise that every single human being, we make our decisions, we make our actions, we do something in life always to go toward the better feeling choice. So if something in our internal representations of it, if it is perceived to be the better feeling choice, we'll go that way over this other place. Now, sometimes that might be just to avoid something even worse, that it feels a little better to go this way. But every time that we make a choice is to go to the better feeling choice. So how does that work in terms of food? Let me just demonstrate or just kind of map out something for you. So the way, let's say, a non-thin person usually goes about eating and decision making and their internal strategy, something like this. They either see or imagine food. Okay? Now, something usually triggers that, and we can talk about that later, but this is just a portion of the strategy. So they either imagine, see, or maybe even smell food. And this is instantaneously compared, we'll use this line to demonstrate comparison, is instantaneously compared with how they feel at that moment. Now, when this comparison is made, there's going to be an outcome to that comparison. If the outcome is that the food, imagining eating the food, feels better than however they feel right now, is a positive feeling, then usually there's something like, yum! And that leads to the exit of this strategy. What happens off of this is eat food. Okay, pretty simple, right? And this strategy will work every single time like clockwork, as long as how they feel is either not as positive or might even be slightly negative. Their state, how they're feeling at that moment. If eating the food is, when it's compared to how they feel, is better, instantaneously it feels better, yum, eat food. Okay? And this, if you can imagine someone with this eating strategy over time, over the course of months and years, will probably just keep eating a lot of food. Because every time it's compared, it's just a simple choice. So, how is it different for those who have a naturally thin eating strategy? It looks a little something like this. So, there's the same external stimulus, either food that you see or you smell or imagine of food. Okay? And this is compared with something very different. This is compared with two things. How the person feels now compared to how they'll feel in 2 to 3 hours. Now, if this leads to if this one here is a positive feeling of how they will feel in 2 to 3 hours, and it's better than how they feel now, this will lead towards great or yum. and they'll exit to eat food. Now, if this comparison leads to a negative feeling, that how they will feel in 2 to 3 hours is less good than how they feel now, then this starts over again and something new is considered about what to eat. So there's a kind of revision until a food is found that in 2 to 3 hours will feel as good or better than how we feel now, which will then exit into great, yum, and into eating food. So this is a very different process. Now, here's where it gets really tricky. Those who see food, or imagine food or smell food in some way, when they compare it to how they feel, if it's better, they say yum, they eat food. Now, when this feeling, when someone's general state in their life is much more on the negative side, if they tend to have a high amount of sadness or depression or anxiety or some of the more negative states, this comparison becomes clearly positive almost every single time. So this compulsion to go towards food as an immediate relief from this negative feeling becomes almost uncontrollable. And for some, that's where alcohol comes in, cigarettes, whatever it is that leads to the better feeling will become almost not a choice. Because if our system is always moving toward the better feeling choice, it will just be food, yes, better, good, yum, eat food. And then what sometimes happens after this is 30 minutes later or an hour later, after this has run its cycle and they feel crappy, then they'll run some feelings of guilt or shame or I'm so blah, 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 whatever, fill in that blank for that person, which leads to greater negative feelings about, in general, their state of their life. So what happens in a couple hours or 3 hours or 4 hours when it's time to eat again? Any food available is going to make this positive feeling come out, yum, eat food, and the cycle continues. And if you imagine that happening over and over and over, not only does this make someone, the epidemic in our country, that of obesity, not only does it run that cycle, but it makes this negative feeling get increased. So, to leave you with something, to be able to install, if we call it that, but be able to really bring this as a place to live from, when you're in the place to decide about food, if you can take into consideration this place, if I compare it to how I'll feel 2 or 3 hours from now, this also for some people gets compared to how I will feel and look over the coming days and weeks. There's another kind of level to that comparison, and to the energy I will have tomorrow, or how I will feel in 2 days. So all of this gets compared with into whether it exits into eating food or whether it exits into revising what will be eaten until it matches those criteria. In terms of this, if you would like, this is where ideally you can be able to work with someone to help them overall increase the feeling state of their life so that this becomes actually closer and closer to the same positive feeling they have about their life, so that food becomes a choice. Food becomes a choice about what nourishes me, what delights me as well. I mean, obviously food is a pleasurable thing to have at sometimes for that reason, and to make the choice most of the time that we would go towards that which brings the greatest vitality, greatest energy, greatest health into your whole body. And so if you'd like to explore this place and how to take whatever feeling is there and make it into a more positive one for you or for someone that you know, please feel free to contact me or someone else that you know that does that kind of deep kind of life repatterning, so that what you would like becomes more easy and natural. This becomes a choice, whether it's this strategy or some other one that serves you, so that not only can you have great yum, eat food, but you can end up with a great state of health, energy, vibrancy, and the kind of vitality that can carry you through to all your greatest passions and purposes in life.